Hello, and thanks for listening to your SCAMLE's exclusive podcast, ExplorED. On these episodes, you will enjoy exclusive interviews with some names you recognize and some people you'll be meeting for the first time. In each of our episodes, we will ask you to think and grow and reflect as a professional educator. If you aren't yet a member of SCAMLE, we encourage you to join today. More information can be found at www.scamle.org. There, find out more information about membership, conferences, and professional development opportunities. And don't forget to join us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. My name is Sarah Evanson Atkinson, and I serve as the Professional Development Director for your SCAMLE. I am an educator of 21 years and a past SCAMLE president as well.
In this episode of the ExplorED podcast, I had the opportunity to sit down with Jonathan Alsheimer, a middle-level teacher and author of Next Level Teaching, Empowering Students and Transforming School Culture, who will be joining our annual conference for the Saturday keynote address, book signing, and breakout session. In this conversation, Jonathan challenges us to think differently about how we look at exhaustion. Yes, I said exhaustion. We can either be tired because we've worked against the kiddos and that's simply difficult, or we can be tired because we've left it all out there for the children and have done our best for kids. I choose to be exhausted because I've given every last ounce of myself. How about you? Please help me welcome Jonathan Alsheimer to the podcast. We are lucky enough here today to have Jonathan Alsheimer on the ExplorED podcast with us today. Welcome aboard.
Hey, thanks for having me. And as I always love to say, if when it comes to talking education, I'm here for it all day long. So let's do this thing.
I'm going to let you introduce yourself. What do you do in education? How long have you served? And what are you professionally passionate about right now?
Awesome. So, all right. So my name is Jonathan Alsheimer. I'm a teacher in Northern Virginia, middle school teacher. I teach 7th grade history. So I teach the tough ones, the middle level kids. You got to love that. You know, they come in like babies and all of a sudden they think they're grown-ups in 2 seconds.
Well, they smell like grown-ups, Jonathan.
Very true. Oftentimes very true. But I'll tell you what, I'm passionate about education. I love talking education. I'm passionate about what I do. And I'm an author of Next Level Teaching. I speak. I have 2 master's degrees, one in educational leadership, and oftentimes I get this question, what are you going to do next? What are you going to do next? Honestly, there's nothing I want to do more than be a classroom teacher. I love kids. That's where my passion lies, and working with students and building them up and empowering them. So that's what it's all about.
So you said you work at a middle school, Fredlin Middle School, right, in Woodbridge, Virginia, as a history teacher. 7th graders, the stinky 7th graders, the beautiful ones in the middle, right? So
right.
Who or what are your biggest motivators to get you, that have gotten you to this professional place where you're existing?
For me, I was born and bred in the world of education. My parents were both educators. My father was a legend educator, middle school teacher, taught high school as well. My mom was an elementary school teacher. And so I was always kind of immersed in it. And for me, the same thing kind of bolds now. As my wife's a teacher. She's one of the best teachers I know. 3rd grade teacher. Just a couple of years ago, she set a record for the math state test scores in her school. So, for me, my motivators in terms of what put me where I'm at is, I've been around education my whole life, and I've seen, the positive effects of it, the positive influences of it. And, that's just been a passion for me, working with kids and working with people. And I wanted to, at the end of the day, for me, it was about choosing a line of work that at the end of the day, I can look back on my life and say, I made a difference. I made a difference in people. I made a difference in my community. I made a difference in the life of somebody. And for me, that was the motivator. That was the big thing, because I saw how my community growing up just loved my parents, and people were just touched by everything that they did in the school building. And they had story after story. And I said, what, that's me. That's what I want to be. Growing up, and I want to influence people. I want to influence kids. I want to be a difference maker around my community. And so here we are.
So we talk about being a difference maker, and I've been in this business a long time, and sometimes the community doesn't look at us that way. What do you say to those people who just feel really defeated and frustrated?
I think that you're right. There's a real big disconnect in the world of what we do. I think that's really, really evident. I've even had family members that are like, what do you babysit? What do you make up lesson plans on the way to work? And so I think that's par for the course. But at the same time, I'm gonna share two things. One, that's where I think the social media side of it comes into play. I'm really big into using social media as an avenue to not only connect with the community and try to bring things into your school, bring things into your classroom, but also share out what we do, share out the amazingness that happens in our classrooms, in our schools, and just trying to kind of set yourself up with other people that are obviously in your line of work, and just kind of immerse yourself in what you're doing and try to be a game changer. Because you're right, like there's a lot of people out there that have no clue what we do. So let's share that out. You don't know what we do. You think this is easy work. Let me show you what we do. Let me show you how tough it is. And it's not about showing like, oh, this is, oh, it's so tough and negative stuff, like showing the awesomeness that takes place, the great lesson plans and all these different things, the environment that you're creating in your classroom, the experiences that we create in our classroom through learning, and just sharing that out with the community. That's the best way I feel like we can get people to understand what we do, where we come from, and our love for what we do.
And I love the idea of networking, because I think that new teachers come in to our schools and they're not totally sure how to do that. And I think it's really important. But a lot of them know how to use Twitter, and a lot of the new teachers, especially our membership, they know how to use Instagram. We're talking to them on Facebook. What is a piece of advice you'd give them besides networking, which I think is very, very important? But what's another piece of advice you'd give to a new teacher? What do you think they need in order to survive? I mean, we're seeing high attrition rates. We're seeing people walk out of buildings, whether they be a first-year teacher or a 21st year teacher. We're seeing a lot of attrition, and I wonder if you can give some kind of, what would you say to those folks? How do you get them to stick in the game?
Well, I would say this. First of all, you got to have a real big, right now, you really got to have a real big why to what you're doing. Why are you doing this? Why are you in the classroom? Why are you an educational leader? That's the first thing I can say is this. You need to remember what that is. You know what I mean? Because if you're here for a paycheck, yeah, you're going to be walking out the door in about 5 seconds, because one, we don't make very much money, and this is really tough work. But if you got in this for the right reasons, then you need to remember what those reasons are, number one. And number two, you have two options, I feel like, in the world of education. You can either be exhausted at the end of the day and frustrated, or you can be exhausted at the end of the day and look yourself in the mirror and say, man, that was a fun day. Kids had fun. I had fun. At the end of the day, you're going to be tired. You just have to know that going in. So my suggestion is looking at what you're doing, your instructional practices, you're building relationships with kids, and start focusing on, okay, how can I make kids love school today? If you can get kids to love school and want to be there, they're going to learn. And if you can get that to happen in your classroom, then that's just going to make the experience that much better. And oftentimes the way you do that is through literally creating experiences around learning. Whatever your target goal is, whatever you're trying to teach the kids, think about it from a perspective of our own personal life. The most fun we have is when we are fully engaged in some sort of experience. Why the heck do you think people go to Disney World? Because it's an experience. You want to be, there's an element of entertainment too. But if you're teaching kids, you got to understand that they're going to show up from like every different background of the world. Some are going to be ready to learn, some don't. Some are excited about being in school, some don't. So we need to know that going in. We signed up for this. They have to be there. So if they have to be there and we're willing to be there, let's make it something exciting. Let's create something in our classrooms where we are taking the kids somewhere special. Like I'm teaching history. One of my favorite lesson plans comes up very soon where I create the 1920s in my classroom. Or we're creating something where kids feel like they're there. There's an element of emotion, but at the end of the day, and yes, it is hard work. Every listener is like, well, that sounds tough. Yeah, you're right. Teaching's tough. So if we're going to have a tough, if it's going to be difficult, if it's going to be tiring, then let's make it tiring, but let's make it fun. If we can get this idea of, and some people like hate the word fun in education. I have no idea why. I don't understand it. All right. So whether you're saying fun or engaging, whatever your key word is, I don't really care. But let's bring that back to the forefront of what we do. Not every single day can be an experience. Not every single day can be wild and crazy. But if we can create something, if we can look at our instruction, I always do that. Look at my instruction and go, okay, what are the kids into? Can I bring it into the classroom? Or if I'm looking at the instruction, if I'm bored, they're going to be bored. So how can I be engaged? If I'm thinking about me as a student, like what would I want to be doing with this? What would I want to learn? How would I want to learn it? If we start looking at things like that, it's going to change the ballgame. And then it's going to make the classroom more fun. Kids are going to want to be there. They're going to be excited for learning. That changes the entire atmosphere in the classroom. And then you're not going to have so many teachers walking out. You're not going to have so many teachers saying, forget this, I'm out of here.
Say to your colleagues, because you're a history teacher. So you're the storyteller guy. That's what you do. I mean, a lot of people think that.
Right.
What do you say to your colleagues who are like, no, I teach math. I need them to sit still. I need them to listen. This is important because it's math. Hey, what do you say to those colleagues of ours? Because you know they're out there and you know they're listening.
Hey, I'm going to say two things. Number one, if that's your mindset, well, good luck then. Then you get what you get, straight up. I'm sorry. Like, you can't say help me and then not accept the help. Number two, you can still take whatever math you're using or whatever it is that you're doing. Shoot, if you're doing science and you're in chemistry, blow up a chair. Take kids outside, blow up a chair. They're going to be so excited about blowing up a chair. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter. If you're talking about math, take them on a trip, a virtual trip to, I'll just say Disney World. We're a big Disney Plus family here, a big Disney World family. Take them on a trip to Disney World. And they're going around to the different stuff in Disney World, but you're utilizing the math in, maybe you're talking about elapsed time, or maybe you're talking about something with formulas. However you're doing your math, whatever it is, tie it into the experience. You can create something around whatever the content is. Absolutely. And the best teachers will do that. And honestly, we have to mold with the time. Okay, we can't be the same teacher we were year one. You can't teach the same way every single year. So if you're the type of teachers that are like, well, I just want the kids sitting down, honestly, again, think about your own life. The most fun we have is when we're up, we're moving, we're thinking, the blood's flowing. You know, we got the positive atmosphere rocking and rolling in our classroom. Like, that's what you got to do. And honestly, I'll throw this out there. Like, I feel like it's tough. Most kids walk into my classroom and they say this point blank week one. History is their least favorite subject. They think it's boring. So I got a real tough job. So if I got it that tough, I don't care what subject you're doing, you can find a way to make it fun, find a way to make it cool, find a way to get kids up, moving around. Maybe you're creating a challenge, maybe you're creating a game around a reading. One time we were reading this really, really dry topic. Well, it was about the Cold War, but it was this really dry literature about the Cold War. And honestly, I looked at it and I go, oh my, it was about the Cuban Missile Crisis. I'm going to fall asleep. And I actually like this stuff. So I turned it into, all right, this is what we're going to do. And I turned it into a game where kids read it. They were their groups. They read it by themselves. They took notes. They talked about it as a team, and they knew we were going to turn this into a game. And it was going to be almost like a relay race as a team, but you work as a team. Next thing you know, this boring, dry reading on, yes, a history topic, but whatever it is that topic is, I turned it into a fun game, and kids were rocking and rolling and smiling and laughing, and the energy was awesome. Just sometimes we got to think outside the box.
So how do you think your own personal history contributes to the way you approach education? Because there are a lot of people sitting here listening thinking, well, but I don't really have, I don't have that kind of history that he does. And I haven't done the things that he's done on his resume. I don't really know that maybe this profile doesn't fit me.
The best way I would say is whenever I'm like creating something, doesn't matter what it is. A lot of times what I'll do is I'll sit down on, okay, what's the topic? I'll write the topic down, and then I'll think, okay, what are kids into? What are kids into? I got to think outside the box. It's real easy to say, well, I'm not this, or I'm not that, or I can't do this, or that's too tough. Well, guess what? It's tough for all of us. I'll tell you what, my year one self was nothing compared to where I'm at right now. I'm in my 13th year in education. Like, my year one self, I wish I could go back and tell my year one self all these things. But I'll write down 3 things that kids are into. All right, what are 3 things? For example, I'll give you another example. I'll just start throwing examples out at you. We're doing virtual teaching, and I did this again this year with something else, and I'll share both with you. We're learning about the Civil War, and a lot of kids are like, the Civil War is done. I don't want to talk about that. And there's so many things that are so vital with the Civil War that you have to talk about. It's important to talk about, especially today and age. And so getting that exciting for kids was really one of those things where, like, how do we do this? Well, I wrote down a few different things, and it was, what are kids into? Well, kids are into entertainment, movies, video games. Okay, well, how can I turn any of this into what I'm doing? And does not matter the topic. And so what we decided to do, and my team really jumped in on this, they made it better than I could ever imagine at the time. But we turned the Civil War into like a movie/video game experience. And what we did was I had my 7-year-old shoot a video with my iPhone of me next to where I was at a battlefield, and I used iMovie because I'm not a tech genius at all. Let me just say that right now.
Okay.
I'm no tech genius. And she recorded me. And I said, okay, just keep the camera rolling. And by the time I was done editing it, it was just very simple. Anybody could do it. It looked like I jumped out of the thin air and I worked for the CIA, and I went back in time, and I was getting the student to be a government agent with me to stop this evil group called Vigilance that was trying to go back in time and change the course of human history so they could change the outcomes of all the things that took place. And all of a sudden we tied in the literature that we were reading, different things. Kids had to read through things to find the secret code. You have to do this and do that. And it was really simple things: read, answer questions, read, figure this out. But we tied it into secret code, movie-like experience, video game, and all of a sudden kids were roped in. I did the same thing with a topic that we did. We turned it into kids were field reporters, reporting live from back in history. And then I was the news anchor with my daughter. I literally, again, recorded it with a Ring camera and my iPhone. And we were talking as if it was all live. And then the kids did Flipgrid videos as if they're recording live from that time in history. There's all kinds of things. I turned an experience with a review activity into a zombie apocalypse. You just have to think outside the box. And a lot of people might say, well, that's not me, that's difficult. Well, you know what? Make it you. If you want school to be fun, if you want your class to be interesting, and you don't have to do that all the time in everything you do. Think of it like this. Okay, if I can create one fun thing or one experience per unit or every other unit, think about it. Over the course of 5 years, all of a sudden now you got more than you ever thought you could handle. And now you're ripping off all kinds of cool lesson plans. Trust me, it's not like that every single day in my classroom and no classroom. Sometimes you have to do the note taking. I have my kids taking notes all the time. But if you can do that, then all of a sudden now kids will do the note cards, or they'll do the occasional worksheet, or they'll do this or do that because they know something fun is coming around the corner.
We are so excited to be hosting you in March in the great state of South Carolina. Looking forward to bringing you to our neck of the woods. So give a quick preview to what are you going to be talking about with these folks, and why should they tune in and come?
Well, my big thing is this with my keynote, it comes down to this, teachers, in my opinion, are the driving force in school culture. They are the end all be all. They are the heartbeat that is a school, right? So talking about what can we do as educators to change the classroom culture that we create, ultimately impacting our grade levels and our school culture as well, utilizing the ideas of motivating students. How do we build relationships with those students? How do we, and we have heard these things before, but some outside the box, when we talk about outside the box tricks and ideas and different things to think about as it relates to motivating kids, building relationships with kids, talking about those experiences, and ultimately, how are we bringing in the community to make our schools better? And likewise, with talking about with my breakout session, making classroom management more effective and just diving deeper into these ideas, talking about classroom branding and creating something in your classroom that's special, that's exciting, that kids want to be a part of, and then utilizing things like community partnerships and building things within the community, but starting in your classroom. How are you building student leadership in your school? You want to motivate kids that really aren't fired up about learning about history? Well, get them involved in making a difference. And if you can create something where they're making a difference and they see that, now all of a sudden they realize, man, this class is a little bit different because we're doing something that's a little bit cooler. I feel like I'm important here. And now all of a sudden I want to pay attention. I'm more motivated in the classroom. I want to learn. And it all comes with what we bring to the table. It can't just be the same thing we've done every single year. Let's start looking outside the box and trying new tricks and trying new strategies, ultimately leaving nothing off the table for what we bring for our kids.
One final question is, if you were to recommend one resource, text, podcast, film, Netflix, to listeners, which would it be and why? What is it that they can't miss from your opinion?
Well, I always like to give a really outside the box answer to that. You know what I mean? Especially, this day and age, I'm going to throw something out there that, if you're a teacher that's looking to bring something into your school, oftentimes we talk about, stop being just a problem finder, be a problem solver, and if you're talking about if you're a principal listening to this or an educational leader, you're like, yes, please preach, mic drop this thing. So I'm going to bring something that you can bring to your school. And, there's a company called Teacher Fit out there that does workout stuff for teachers. But one of their new things that they dropped was it's called Advocate and Education. And they run a program where students have a direct link with guidance counselors. And so students that are struggling, we talk about mental health and wellness. Let's stop talking about stuff and start doing something. That's the thing. And so much in schools and education, in the world in general, and politics, all that stuff, we talk a lot about the problem, but we never actually bring a solution to the table. And this is a program that literally brings a solution to the table, direct link kids to guidance counselors so they can feel like they're being heard, and guidance counselors and schools can jump in on things before a student makes a wrong choice. And I think that's really something that's exciting because, again, like we're talking about the mental health and well-being of our kids. If we really care about our kids and what they're going through, well, we need to start bringing programs to the table to help to help them, period. That's it, period.
Talk for a second about your text that you have written.
So next level teaching, empowering students and transforming school culture. Again, as I mentioned, teachers are the driving force of a school, man. So oftentimes we talk about how, principals, the school culture is always on the shoulders of the principals. Yeah, they lay the foundational groundwork. They can definitely make or break a school for sure. But at the end of the day, it's the teachers that change the game. You literally, as an educator, can influence kids by what you do in your classroom. And through, again, as we've talked about, motivating kids, relationships, what are the experiences that you're creating? You're talking about kids that are going to your classroom excited about learning because they know they're going to do something fun. And then when they leave your classroom, rather than going in the hallway and smacking some kid or cussing somebody out, they can't wait to get to their next class because of what you're doing. And then what are you doing as an educator throughout your school to make an influence, not just in your classroom, but through your grade level, throughout all the grade levels? You may not have a personal relationship with every single kid in the school. That's not possible, but they should know who you are and what you're about. And that's what this book is all about, how a teacher can be an influencer throughout the school building. And literally, if I'm a principal, I'm looking for a book that's going to be a game changer in my school. This is the book, because I want my teachers to jump in and look for ways to make a difference and to help kids and to help our school and to make connections with the community and ultimately just try to take our school to the next level, pushing it forward. I'm going to say this, I'm excited to be at the conference. I can't wait to meet everybody. And hopefully, honestly, I want people to be ready to go, rocking and rolling. And I'll tell you what, like if you're a note taker, be ready to write some things down. If you're not a note taker, be ready to write some things down. I can't wait. And I'll tell you what, I'm going to challenge you when I'm talking. I'm going to challenge you. I'm going to give you some new ideas, and honestly, take them, use them, steal them, make them better, post them on social media, tag me so I can steal them back and use them in my classroom. I love learning. I feel like educators should always be looking to get better. You're looking to get better by coming to this conference. I'm going to keep getting better by stealing the ideas you take from me. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be fire. I cannot wait.